Hey, this is Max Alper, aka Peretsky, and you are listening to Group Critique Fight Club. I'm coming. Turning that off. Yeah. Okie dokie. Had to turn off the noise gate. Gonna need the noise gate for the rest of the summer, but I don't need the AC today. I needed it 2 weeks ago. That shit sucked. Hope everybody's doing well. It's Fight Club. It's your Monday night Fight Club. We got this session today, but then next Sunday and next Monday, we will not be meeting at our scheduled time. I will be on the road doing a week of touring next week. New Peretsky stuff. Or at least new live setup. Philadelphia, Richmond, Charlotte, North Carolina, Nashville, Cincinnati, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. 7 shows. 7. If you're in any of those places, June 7th through 13th in the order that I just said. I'm not going back and telling you which date is which. Figure it out. Listen back to the recording or go check the post that I made. I'll post a full carousel of the show flyers later this week, but hope to see you there. If anybody is in any of those places in the southeast through Rust Belt, northern, eastern point of the Midwest, back to the Rust Belt, up northeast, yada, yada, yada. Should be fun. Doing another tour with the homie Dan Vildava, who has presented some stuff on Group Critique before, Group Critique Fight Club in the past. So it should be a fun time. What else is going on? Shout outs to Tape Trade, once again holding us down on the live stream with some lossless playback in browser, in app, now with the ability, or slowly trickling out the ability, to share and edit playlists as a group, or at least amongst friends on the platform. Really, really useful tool when needing to pass demos or stems back and forth to do A and B tests. Always annoying having to, give new links on Google Drive and things like that one at a time. Tools like Tape Trade allow you to create these private playlists and share them and edit them amongst collaborators. Link in the show notes for 2 weeks free. Tapetrade.io. Shout outs to them. What do we have this week? We got some music. In fact, I was actually going to start us out. I had given on a Sunday session previously was discussing this sort of acousmatic radio opera that I was finishing mastering at that point. A bit of vocal music, a bit of, more abstract drone, and a bit of just pure concrete field recording tomfoolery. And since then, it has been picked up. Shout outs to Soap Library, the label. Going to be putting it out in September, maybe October, as a CD and digital exclusive, without any plans for this to be played live, strictly acousmatic, but plans on listening room, listening parties on, fancy ass hi-fi systems and things like that. So got another excerpt from that I would love to play you. Let me just open up the tape trade for the month here. The title of the piece, or rather in two parts, is called "In the House That My Grandfather Built," and you'll probably understand. I mean, it's repeated as a phrase throughout, but this is just an excerpt from the first of two movements. Both of them are over 20 minutes, about 21 minutes each. So this is about the first 5 minutes or so. And I didn't actually crop it in any particular place, so it's just going to cut abruptly at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. But I didn't have time to do a fade out. I just did a hard cut. All right, let's go check this one out. From me. In the house that my grandfather built, I can see the future. Exits long closing blind. Good place to cut it right there. It's a weird one. It's a weird one for anybody who's unfamiliar with the work of Robert Ashley. No ending. Yeah, that's right. For anybody who's familiar with the work of Robert Ashley specifically, and his television operas. So the title of side A of this is called "Inside the Car as It Is Swept Off the Ground 2048." So it's a speculative fiction or speculative autobiographical fiction of sorts in relation to the house that my grandfather built. So this is a true to form acousmatic approach to electronic music, in which the expression cinema for the ears, and in this case, like quite literal narrative at play. And in the second half, which some of you heard an excerpt of before, it is spoken word rather than sung and chorale, and you could expect in this, so far as you've heard it, it's just continuing to stack harmonies over a single trope, with changes in the second half of each, or the majority of each verse, following on the in the house that my grandfather built motif starting out. Breathplay. I love the extremely dry yet extremely affected vocal, very unnerving. So I recorded that in studio properly, made it sound really nice. Then I put it on my audio player and I played it in my car stereo with all the windows open and 4 mics inside the car. So what you're hearing is this extremely dry but also affected. It is like crazy reamped in a specific, like, talk about cinema for the ears, right? Like this is laying into very specific diegetic recording techniques, location sound techniques, as if it were a film. But you're hearing it as if it's audio being played through the car stereo, because it quite literally is. So it's meant to be a world building. Correct answer. Yes, it's meant to be a world building technique in this sense, and I hope that it's immersive, without having to tell everybody that it's actually recorded through these very high fidelity, low fidelity means. Capturing low fidelity at its highest fidelity, let's say. And same for the second half, which is all voice memos on a phone, and then mixed correctly and blended with the field recordings for the second half, sort of more of a diary spoken word section on the second half. But yeah, there's this immersive element to the it's all live performance of the tape being played through a couple of granular synthesizers or samplers in a live single take, and then taken from like 3 hours of single take improvisation, blended and cut into pieces to create what we're hearing here, so that there's a real correlation between narrative and the vocal sort of motifs and the tape tambura, as I'm calling it. The constant, the one constant on both sides is the processed field recordings as the electroacoustic element, the tape, the concrete element. But yeah, Soap Library, shout outs to them, putting it out in the fall. We'll do some listening party, figure it out. This thing needs to be heard on a proper system, and that's why we're doing it as a CD. As much as I love my tape and vinyl, they're not lossless, baby. This is really meant to be a digital artifact, to be heard properly, lossless. So that's what you're gonna get. Yeah, hope you dug it. Let's get on to your stuff, shall we? Oh, we got another one I got to add in here in a second. Okay, we got from Karim from last week, who accidentally submitted this to the wrong thread when we had Wendy Eisenberg on last week for our monthly project presentation. So I missed it, but they also submitted it pretty late. But we're going to feature it today, because why the hell not? Karim, I don't know if they gave any resubmission, but feedback from Wendy is too invaluable to pass up. It's a resubmission. Well, we're running it back. We're running it back today for Karim because we didn't do it last time. Let's hear Sunbelt, Karim. Nice. My memory's so bad, so I don't even recall this one when you had presented this one earlier. So it's fresh. It's fresh to me. I'm coming at it with naked ears. I've been saying to Kareem specifically to just be playing guitar because they do it well. This is the foundation for something that is like, even though they don't live in LA anymore, we can feel the LA dripping off of this one from Karim, his home city. I don't want to dox him, but this is giving the smoothness of Ink No World, quiet storm, 21st century quiet storm, subtlety and restraint in the guitar specifically. But, and this would be what I would say specifically in relation, since it was going to be submitted for the the monthly project last week, and the prompt for that was melody and harmony. And although there are a couple licks of melody and the usage of monophonic phrasing in the upper strings of the guitar, I would go ahead and safely bet that what we're hearing in the guitar part here is, once again, like more of the rhythm guitar part and the counter melody, the elements in there that are meant to be monophonic. I'm hearing them as countering a lead melody that once again isn't there yet. You know, once again, we have made our bed. We've set the foundation. We've made the bed, but we haven't slept in it. You know, we got to finish the job. We have all the elements laid out for a lead melody of sorts. You know, I was imagining, again, like some sort of horn, distant, reverberant, muted, restrained horn. Muted trumpet. You know, slow, elongated phrasing over the nice little, you know, riffage, the licks we got going on in the guitar, you know, and the bass and drums are just like pure pocket in that way. It's lovely, but still need, clarinet. Okay, Breathplay said clarinet. Nice. Good suggestion there. Just something lead, you know. It's so much easier. If I was to bet, like, what's the, you know, some people have trouble with harmony and writing progressions. Some people have trouble with melody. But if I had to bet that majority of people who have trouble with one or the other, it would be melody. And I don't know if it's imposter syndrome in relation to, like, we're writing pop music, or we are writing songs that have formula to them, and that includes harmony versus melody. Like, that is an intrinsic part of this, you know, equation of songwriting, which in this case is what we're doing, you know. Like, I don't say that as a derogatory thing. When I say songwriting, I mean songs, you know, we have chord progressions, we have lyrics sometimes, we have a formula that we follow, and we aren't necessarily trying to reinvent it, but we can also subvert it from within, you know. Just distinguishing songs versus, you know, compositions. You know what I'm saying here. But within that framework of songs, you know, I feel like the melody is hard for a lot of people because it's like they have to, like, it's the most vulnerable part. It's like it really does. It's meant to stand on its own, in contrast to everything else that is leading up to it, that is really accompanying it. You know, they call it lead for a reason. You know, it really is the lead instrument in that way, and everything else is just kind of laying the groundwork for it. And so it just puts on full display your voice, whether it be your literal singing voice if you were lead vocals, but more than that, as a composer and producer, like what would you do with one monophonic instrument at a time? And I don't know, I understand the vulnerability of that, but we just got to lay into it, dog. With this type of music specifically, this Quiet Storm shit, you know, this is meant to be hopelessly romantic. This is meant to be vulnerable. Lay into that. Lay into that, dog. I'm sure Wendy would say something even more eloquent than me in response to that piece, but you're stuck with just me for today. But this is really lovely stuff. But again, it's a foundation. It's a foundation that should be built upon. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All right. Good stuff from Karim. Who do we got? Who do we got? Ooh, Snake Plissken. We got Snake Plissken with Prairie Blazing Star. Oh, hell yeah. I think I know who this is. Next track. Let's go. Yeah. Hell yeah. I didn't even realize you put in the chat that we could skip through the middle part. We played all the way that through, and that was fine. I was glad to play for 7 minutes. I know normally we cut it at 5, but I'm totally fine with that. Nah, man, that was great, and I think you're gonna laugh at what I'm gonna say, but I actually think it should be longer. And the reason I say that is because I think it should be slower to allow for moments of what we heard at the very end, which was patience and space between parts. We heard the entire time, basically up until the last minute and a half. There's a constance of there's constant sound occurring. Even if things kind of moving in waves, there was never one thing alone. It was always in combination with something else. You know, even if the pieces were slow moving, they were ebbing and flowing in sort of constant movement, you know. And what I thought this really needed was space, silence. At the very end, just hearing the voice on the pulsing tremolo effect on its own. Like, I could have sat in that for another 2 minutes. You know what I mean? This is me thinking about this as what I'm assuming is part of your installation project, or rather sound map project, that could absolutely invite this sort of patience through spreading out the parts. If we have it, we're imagining it condensed right now. Let's move things out from the outside, you know, proportionately, to create, you know, a more like a 12-minute version of this, where I think the goal should be to allow things to at times be in combination, you know, parts played on top of each other, but at other times, like, give us a stark contrast of individual sounds, or like slowly creeping in one sound on top of the other, you know. But the gentleness and the patience that comes with hearing, I would love to just hear the low end on its own, the progression on its own. You know, like, each of these things can have their own moments, especially because we're thinking about this as basically as an auditory installation meant for someone to be walking through a space. A sound map, for those that don't know, is a piece of music or sound work, electroacoustic or otherwise, that is meant to be played back in headphones while someone walks a specific path in a specific place. So you are scoring their environment in that way. I don't know who coined the term initially. My electroacoustic 101 class as a freshman, we had to make sound maps as one of our homework assignments. It was on campus. It was really fun. So yeah, thinking about that though, like, and that there's not really meant to necessarily be, someone could take as much time as they want on the sound walk. You know, they could be I'm sorry, sound walk is what I'm talking about. That's sound maps. Sound maps is Anya Lockwood. That's different. Sound walk is what we're talking about here. The physical act of walking with headphones on. Someone could take as much time as they want on the sound walk. You know what I mean? So in that case, was it some Canadians like R. Murray Schafer? Maybe he coined it. I'm not sure. Some soundscape studies folks. But just like in an interactive media on the screens, like a video game, you can't force someone to beat the level, so to speak, or to move on to the next level, the next phase, the next room, the next space of the sound walk. Can't force them to go at a rushed pace. So all the more reason to take your time, and to allow for sort of invite that sort of patience in your arrangement and pacing here. Also thinking about, like, if you want there to be a dynamic range, right now everything is kind of at one level, just coming in layers and ebbing and flowing, but ultimately all kind of staying in the same timbre and like literal volume sort of dynamic range. I don't know if you were trying to create a sort of arc there. You could use a bit more attenuation as far as like, is it meant to start quiet and end loud? If there's anything deliberate you're trying to do there, I would pay a bit of attention to the levels where it starts and where it ends and things like that. Like your literal volume is a really simple way to just bake that in there. The dynamics weren't coming through on here for some reason. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it should all the more make it all the more obvious, just thinking about like what is the arc of this supposed to be. I mean, obviously things sound quieter when they're on their own, like at the very end, hearing them more spread out, or at least isolated at the very end as the other parts faded out. We could perceive that as quieter, but really like the voice was about the same. It sounded like throughout, so that's just something to think about here. And thinking on like the low end and the pads specifically, like we can do a bit more changes to the synth and the mix of that, open up the filter, add a bit more drive to the low end, really let it like push through with more saturation. This is kind of more mixed notes, but again, like affects dynamics in the same way, so should be mindful of that. But yeah, I'm just making it more increased. If you want it there, it should be a bit more obvious. We can lay into the drama a bit with that. Good stuff. And this is happening out in the Midwest, not in a cornfield, but on a prairie. So you can imagine hearing this type of music. I would love to take my time, 20 minutes with a piece like this, all the more time to explore the walk, lovely stuff. Highly encourage other folks to think about that medium, the sound walk. It's a lovely way to activate our sort of visual sense and the physical too, but like specifically the visual sort of space paired directly and deliberately with original sound, whether it be straightforward music or collage or anything of the sort, to have it be deliberately paired with a space. It's something that we talk about a lot here as a little more hypothetical, meant to just ascribe an idea of a space while hearing a recording. But in this case, it's quite literally and directly correlated, which I think is beautiful. And the act of moving your body, not in a dancing way, but in a walking way, on a path, being guided by a set of recordings. I just think it's a lovely way to compose, and I highly encourage folks to try it out, even just as an exercise. Good stuff from Anna, aka Snake Plissken, on the Discord. Okay, who do we got next? We got Breathplay. Cannibalizing the song I wrote for the monthly project into a techno bummer. Still in sketch phase, all suggestions welcome, no matter how drastic. I started this about 3 hours ago. This is a 4-minute version, but I intend to expand it into a side length, so 9 to 12 minutes. All right, 9 of Swords Self-Destruction remix by Breathplay. Let's go. Nice. Techno bummer. How you describe that here. Nah, man. This is a groove. This ain't a bummer. I mean, it's definitely like the depths of the sewers. It's dripping. It's soaked. It's grimy as fuck. And like somehow like that steam, like dirty trash steam through like the manhole covers, it's given that. It's given that, if you ask me. Certain alleyways. It's giving certain alleyways, in like a noirish sense. I want it to be sad. What could I do to make it more emotionally sad? Okay. I mean, some sort of there is tonal center, I guess, in the bass, but I always equate maybe I'm just not I don't think enough about emotion in relation to rhythm on its own. Not that this is just rhythm on its own, but rhythm is the more obvious sort of lead part to this here, and its arrangement as such, but there isn't necessarily a tonal center to that. And I personally associate, in the very least, maybe not harmony necessarily, but tonality or atonality, but like the usage of pitch as my first sort of tool for emotional evocation, let's say. And I'm not saying you gotta add like a minor chord here if you want to make it sad or whatever. The usage of drone, the usage of sustained pitch in particular, oftentimes is can be very evocative. There's something real raw and human about that. You're right. Maybe this is a piece to call on my Sade influence for some restrained, jazzy melancholy. I mean, like, if that's the case, like the occasional like tone clustered chord, like something that could sustain through this wall of verb for like 16 bars before you hear another one, like restraint in that way, restrained melancholia, but also like when it hits, when it's not restrained, the few times that it doesn't, that it's just like fully establishing something. Like you wrote jazzy melancholia here, I mean, yeah, like dubstep in the traditional sense, right? Absolutely. Some sort of electric piano, deeply reverberant and dubbed out echo on like, a single chord that takes a long time before we hear it again, but there's like a long sustain of a wet tail behind it. Absolutely. That could absolutely bring us there. And also, at one point I'll have to stop name dropping Burial as just any sort of example for multiple reasons here. But in this case, like the usage of you're also not unfamiliar with this, is like sampling for the sake of finding dialogue or monologue, like some sort of spoken element that just like maybe like one or two phrases here that like grounds it in a literal sort of verbiage and theme that might, I think, if you want to drive home that this is not a happy song, I think that like you can find meaning in found sound spoken elements that you can use to your advantage here to create that maybe not literal narrative but a literal theme that requires some words to illustrate. I think that's the combo here. We're just going full Burial, just original dubstep with found sounds and field recordings and making it murky. You're already in the fucking rain. You're already in the rain here. It's foggy out. There's steam coming from manholes. We're looking at, certain alleyways, as I said, not all alleyways, certain alleyways. Whatever that famous one is off Canal Street in Manhattan, Cortlandt Alley, I think. I had to help a student film shoot film in there once for an old adjuncting job I did, and it's just like the alleyway for fucking fashion shoots, but also like if you need something sketchy as fuck looking, like it would be the place to have some fog. This is where I was imagining this in particular. So yeah, like drive home your thematic element here, whatever that may be. Make that more clear that this is not supposed to be a positive, uplifting sort of track in that way. You know, you don't have to spoon feed it to us. I think that the restraint and melancholia in and of itself is, you know, meant to evoke not just straight up sorrow, right? But obviously not joy either. It's this unsuredness in the middle, leaning towards sad, but not fully there. You know, it's a transitory sort of state. So like I think it just implies restraint here. Everything that I'm mentioning here, use it sparingly, I think is how I'm imagining these things. Always go for field recordings. Drive it home. Give us some air at the end of the day. It's the other thing, just from a mix perspective, and maybe this just hasn't really been mixed in that way yet, but like it does feel a little in the box. It would be cool to just give it a bit of a tapier effect. You know, it feels too high fidelity as it stands. It's my 2 cents. It'll drive home the themes, I think. All right. Good shit from Breathplay. All right. Looks like we got one more for today. Keeping it brief. I think I'm going to sneeze. Woo! Yeah. We got one more from Taeghan. Where they got, nothing makes me more productive than submitting for Group Critique Fight Club. Getting hours worth of theorizing arranged in 10 minutes. There we go. We love to see it, don't we, folks? We got a short one from Taeghan, so we'll listen to it twice. Horror anyway. Damn it, trying to restart the damn track. Why won't you play it? All right. Well, judging by the title, horror, anyways, I'm gonna assume that this is a horror theme of sorts, whether it be a hypothetical film or if there's one literally in mind for the composition here, and has all the foundational materials for something like this as a short motif, less than a minute and a half long. The usage of tritone consistently throughout on this, the devil's interval or the devil's chord, the diminished fifth constantly throughout this. It is inherently going to be unnerving, and it's hard to deconnotate from many a film score, many a horror score, and many, just in general, like it was even prior to horror. I mean, if you want to consider silent films, damsel in distress, lady tied up on the train tracks as the train approaches with the ragtimey piano, the honky tonk piano doing the tritone in that instance, as they would famously do. If you want to consider that horror, then that might be the earliest version of horror film, in which the tritone has consistently been a part of the medium. It's there. It's obviously. I think we should create a little less polyphony in that piano part. It sounds like we're just in constant chord mode, and constant tritone mode, through the way that you've, just kind of arranged that chord consistently. It'd be nice to start with a monophonic sound. It would be nice to arrange this in a way that has some development. It's only a minute and just over a minute and 15, so it doesn't actually, you could work with all of these materials without having to, record anything new, and make this 3 minutes long by just developing the parts individually out. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing I said with Anna. Like, it's just like patience, you get right into it right here. But like with horror, I mean, like, we should have like a jump scare, or at least like a drop that like more develops. Two more instruments have dropped, and dynamically we've brought it up, like we finally bring in the low end or something like that halfway through. And you could easily do that by just like spreading out. Start with just the piano, ba 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 da, ba ba ba, just monophonic, and one note at a time, then two notes at a time. Develop it that way. Like, this doesn't need to be like overthought here. Like, especially we're trying to create horror music here, and it has like a fast tempo to it. We don't have to think about this as some slow burn, real think piece. But that doesn't mean we should just like start just like everything all at once, as far as the arrangement goes. We could absolutely create some patience and make this 3 times as long, and I don't think it would be pushing it in duration. I think that would be perfectly appropriate here to in the very least, intro, body, and conclusion, in the essay format here. Let's get a build up to our main thing, and then let's not just cut it and have I love the dissipating sort of like, corrupted digital distortion at the very end, but like it kind of just happens in the last 10 seconds. Take your time with an ending as well. As we've found out many times, writing an ending can be often much harder than writing a beginning. So work on this. Give us a new version of this. You said this is keeping you productive, submitting tracks for Group Critique Fight Club. I'm honored that we're keeping you productive. Now I'm giving you a specific assignment here. Expand on this. Don't just stack it all at once. Arrange this now deliberately. Create a dynamic arc here. You know what I mean? Good shit from Taeghan. Very happy to see new folks getting involved. We will have a monthly project for June. It's going to happen at the end of the month, once I'm way gone with tour. But hopefully we'll post it before then with our special guest for the month of June. Shout outs once again to Tape Trade for supporting us doing this on our Monday free stream. Keeping it open to everybody. Join the Discord. Submit tracks every week. You don't need to subscribe to the Patreon to participate on Monday evenings. And we appreciate Tape Trade for supporting here, making it all possible. Tapetrade.io. Go sign up. So we will not be meeting next week at all. Sundays and Mondays. So you got 2 weeks to work on some new stuff. Everybody, this is a call to action. Get productive in the next 2 weeks. And if you are in Philly, Richmond, Charlotte, Nashville, Cincinnati, Detroit, or Pittsburgh from June 7th through June 13th, come through. Come see me. Come say hi. Come hang out. It'll be a good time. Thank you all for hanging this Monday evening. And looking forward to hearing what you guys come up with later on in the month. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody. Deuces. Thank you for listening to another edition of Group Critique Fight Club with me, Max Alper, aka Peretsky. You can sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/Peretsky to get access to our Sunday Zoom school on top of the regular live public stream. Public stream takes place every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. All are welcome. And you are listening to the track Atop Alp Dog Mountain, Ja Plays Pokemon Go by me.